let's talk about the golden children and the collectors of humanity. The golden children and the collectors of humanity. So you have these different constructs set up for different categories of people to to run the gamut, to run through this gauntlet where they're constantly adjusting the field goal post, or they're constantly moving the chains, preventing you from touching down first, from reaching the first down right on this green surface of a planet. We're being housed in these different contraptions that we really can't see, and is being controlled by these forces that are so overarching and so intelligent that it's like they're playing human chess. And they have the ability to manipulate and move pieces back and forth throughout timelines. They have the power to reset the game. But the only thing that they don't have power over is your own mental autonomy. This can appear illusory based on certain psychological constructs that are put in place to oppress you. But I assure you, the reason why there are so many attacks on your mind is because you have an autonomous mind. It's automatic. It's pre-arranged and set up just for you, modified just for you. So there's an attack to try and remodify your mind. Whether the events of life be true or false, these things can all be collected. The energy signatures of everyone on earth when they experience crises, through your technology, through, anything else, whatever kind of technology that you think is far reaching, whether it be nanotech, etc. All of these things, if they don't use this to harvest and record our energies, the ability to do so can certainly be there. Even if you wanted to weigh the weight of thoughts with word usage, the type of words people use and how they speak, you can pretty much discern or ascertain their dominant mood in that way, or those ways. So the harvesting of energy is very Luciferian in practice. However, there's a fork in the road when it comes to not Luciferianism, but the Luciferian edge that comes with these contraptions when you're dividing people up. So you have light bearing on two levels. You could either light the way to let people know that you're in the maze, that they're in the maze, to be first illuminated on the first level, or they can be illuminated on another level, a higher level, which is now they're focused more on the macrocosm. So they're looking at the big picture versus just whatever their little puzzle piece is. They're looking at the whole picture, trying to stand back and look at things as expansively as possible. And there are groups of people who are so well versed at this that their skill set would make them appear to be godlike when it comes to manipulating people and events. Because people and events give you this illusion of the times, not the illusion of time, but the illusion of the times, a particular age or mood. And so you have golden children inheriting this contraption, coming into this contraption. And in this contraption, not only do they have to deal with the effects of being in a maze where they can starve out, be trapped, be, basically waste away trying to find a way. But in these contraptions, in these constructs, there are collectors of humanity. So you can be captured like a jail inside of a jail, like being in prison and then going to solitary confinement. It's like a jail inside of a jail, being snatched away and brought into a deeper part of the dungeon, a inner circle, an inner darker circle. And so you get collected and arranged and you get put in this very oblivious space, very sartorial-ish, just being put in a pitch black facility, basically, without walls, windows, or doors, infinite in size. This is what happens when you study, when you observe the entertainer. What happens with an entertainer? And best case scenario, the easiest ones to point to is rap, hip hop music. And the reason why is because of how constant those examples are. You have enough rappers coming and going where you can pick up on the pattern and see how the golden children and the collectors of humanity script plays out. And so here they are. You got your great new favorite artists getting ready to rise on the scene. A ton of potential, a ton of bars, can write songs. They have the lyrics, they have the voice, they have the rhyming ability, they have the subject matter, they have the streets on their side. They got the novelty of whatever their producer is that they're working with, which creates a sound. And then both the best thing that can happen to them and the worst thing that can happen to them in the same event happens to them. They get signed. The grind of the hip hop rhyme is to be signed. But when you get signed, you get collected. You get collected by the record label. You get collected by the contract. And why I say you get collected is because you haven't really seen any hip hop artists really run free when they get on a label. They may grind hard to fulfill their contractual obligations and completing their records, where it seems like they're still flowing in the same name and same vein as they were in the mixtape age. But it's never quite the same. Producers change, songwriters enter the room, A&Rs have requests, and it becomes more about the publicity and it becomes more about the persona than the production of the music. You do a single here and there, you feature with whoever's the more popular people of the day, your name and your image gets associated with them, and it becomes more about publicity than production. Because when you're entering that, you're entering into a play and you're entering into that play as a character, but you're not the director of the play, neither are you the star of the play. You are a star in the play, and this is what usually makes a person bite on the contract. The fact that they're going to be a star in the play. But because they are not the star in the play, eventually that star burns out. And in a lot of instances, much faster than it was when they were coming up in the underground circuit. When they were in the underground circuit, they could drop mixtapes every month for years and years and get popular and make whatever their street money was. They could do that. But the moment they get signed, there's this illusion of being known by more people when they were probably already known by enough people to already sustain riches, sustain wealth, sustain popularity, and to grow their own organic buzz from there. This is what happens with the hip hop artists, the R&B artists, particularly in those sectors. You see this example of the golden children being collected by the collectors of humanity quite often. So you got that going on, and once they get caught up and collected, then you just don't really hear from them too much anymore the same way. You might hear from them every once in a while, but they become more rare. And this, in a lot of instances, hurts the artist if they're not a transcendent image. If their image doesn't have transcendent appeal, they won't always flood the minds of the listeners when they're not present. You know, the listener, the potential customer, consumer will not have this particular artist or group on their mind when that group is not present and releasing new material. But that would have still been the case had certain entities remained underground with their craft, because there's such a bad stigma placed on being underground. It means you're not signed. It means you don't get into the parties. You're not standing next to certain people. You're not invited to certain parties with certain people, but at the price of certain parties with certain people, you get limited to certain parties with certain people. Instead of it being about your path and your progress and your production, it becomes more about these parties with these people, and you get silenced. And allegedly in the industry, they say you get basically tricked out and whored out. You get passed around. It turned out because it's a Dionysian sex cult, is what they say. So you have a collection of humanity on that front. Then you have a collection of humanity on the whistleblowers, how they get called out and canceled, how they get silenced or banished and shadow banned, etc. So they get collected they can get pushed back and blacklisted, maybe on a main page somewhere, and end up on another site, on another forum somewhere else in a much darker reality, because you have these creek waters of what is called the dark web rising to the surface in higher numbers every single day. The surface the surface internet is becoming much darker in this collection of humanity, because the collectors of humanity are getting desperate in their search for the golden children. So the world gets darker. Now your average commercial may have a little profanity in it, may have some nudity in it. Things are becoming more and more inappropriate and more in your face with the inappropriateness. While things like being a revolutionary and being outspoken on certain topics is censored to the point where you got to be rated G, there's certain things where you can be rated R and rated XXX right in people's faces and nobody will bat an eye. But this is all in search for the golden children. Remember, this is the searchlights of the forces in the dark realms looking for perfect people. Although there are perfect people in their faces, but why they can't spot these perfect people when they see these perfect people is because of Psalm 91. These perfect people are hidden under a shadow. They call it the shadow of the Almighty. And it's really something that blinds the enemy to what this person actually is. Because in the face of true darkness or enemy or whoever's coming to devour golden children, if they run up on a golden child is so translucent, so transparent. And this is going to be very highly mystical to even touch on or suggest or mention. But they're basically, they can shapeshift into the person that approaches them. So they can do what Paul says. Around the barbarians, I'm a barbarian. Around the civilians, I'm a civilian. Around the Greeks, I'm a Greek. I'm becoming all things to all people, so that for the sake of the kingdom, I may win some for the sake of Christ. He's becoming everything. The ability to shapeshift is what a golden child's inherent trait also is. And it's also very Venusian to be geokinetic. Well, not, I don't think it's geokinetic, because geo is dealing with weather, I believe. But either way, this is dealing with the being able to shapeshift, to transfer into a person is one of the skills that the golden child operates in order to remain elusive in the construct while really remaining hidden in open sight, hidden in plain sight. But it's just that they're under a certain shadow and under a certain anointing energy, under a certain level of chi and God force, where it kind of distorts the image of a lot of things that are opposite to it. Whereas there will be other things that are supernaturally drawn closer to it. You'll notice, if you're a golden child, certain elements in nature that don't seem to be close to you start to get closer, as if they're not sure if you're really a human. Like you might find certain animals, like, okay, now I know that these certain animals right here, they usually keep their distance, but they seem to be getting more comfortable as if to be domesticated. Don't overlook this so quickly, because this could be nature attesting to you of your golden child energy and letting you know that you are a golden child. Because often in this murk, we have to be reminded that we're golden children if we are golden children, because the being reminded of the gold is what triggers the gold inside of us. And yes, it is biologically proven that there is gold contained in human beings. Like I said in other videos, it deals with the filling in of the ligaments. So there's real gold in human beings. So this whole concept of the golden child, this principle of purity, being enhanced by the forging of the fires. So you have the necessary testing when we come into this emulation, this incarnation, this 3D test. Some call a plantation a slavery, but either way, it's something to trigger your bravery. So you're here in this construct, and human beings are being collected based on their societal types and what kind of flocks they belong to. See, while we were pretty much unaware, you had Christians being collected, Satanists being collected, athletes being collected, journalists being collected, other kinds of superstars being collected. There were people still being collected and set aside, being housed who knows where. Who knows where. Even to the point where you have Machiavellian conversations regarding possible fakings of deaths. And this is very golden child human collection labyrinthine in its repose. So just keep an eye out, keep a third eye out for who you are and how people in nature reacts to you. And have no fear, because there's no true reason to have fear. The true children of darkness, they really don't hate the golden children. It's the children of the white ray and the children of the blue ray that they have tension with. But the children of the golden ray, they're what is called the irresistibles. And we can get into that in another video, talking about the irresistibles. You can maybe just glean from that an example of how many people you know that are really magnetic. Like everywhere they go, everybody has to talk to them. And they're not even necessarily the ones starting the conversation, but they're like real off the screen, in your face superstars. They radiate true star quality. They're not looking for praise. They're not flooded with vanity, but just they're so comfortable in their distinction that it becomes attractive and contagious to everyone around them. This is golden child energy that you want to take note of if this is happening to you, and you want to take note of who else it happens to when you see them. This takes out jealousy, envy, hate. It takes all that out the way when you're being the scientist about it and you're truly observing things for what they are. So that the human collectors don't collect you. Learn how to move in and out of every circle. Learn how to be agreeable without being obliged, without being a person who they could say, oh, he or she belongs to this or that group. Try to be, in some ways, indefinable. But at the same time, have your mission and your purpose be clear. One of your weapons is going to be ambiguity when you start to understand energy. And this is one of the laws of the irresistibles as we go into the irresistibles and introduce it. One of the laws is charm, charisma, being able to understand and utilize the fact that it's all about energy, to the point where it almost doesn't even matter what words you use, where it doesn't even matter whether or not you make sense anymore, because you are felt. Your energy is felt. And that's a whole higher level of conversation that I think we're slowly, as a people, entering into. So again, this is Super T Sigma of Sigma Programming. I thank you for your time and attention. You already know reaching is teaching. Hey, if it takes a million videos, or it takes a million videos to get a million views, so be it. But in the meantime, continue to vibrate high, people. Peace.